So, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. We've got people from diverse countries on this panel. We've got Asha in Dubai, Emma in Malawi. Aditya, where are you speaking to us from?
I'm in Indonesia.
Yeah, I couldn't pronounce the city, I'm sorry. And
It's
Katie
in
joins
Bogor.
us from Italy, exactly. So thank you all for joining us today on the International Day of Education. Learning Planet organizes this festival from the 24th of January till the 28th of January. And there are more than 400 organizations who are taking part. And so we are competing for time with many other panels that the organizers are hosting, but I will put this, record this, and we will put it up on our YouTube channels and other social media so others can benefit, because I believe we have a very interesting session today, and the theme of which is basically empathy and collaboration for a quantum leap in climate education. And all this is thanks to Asha Alexander, who will moderate. She is the principal at GEMS Legacy School, Dubai, and executive leader of climate change at GEMS Education. She has basically got more than 35 years of experience in the provision of education to K-12 students, and she has overseen the school's transition to an exclusively digital curriculum. She is passionate, driven to achieve aspirational goals, and ready to take on any challenge, as she believes in nurturing students' hearts and minds and is particular about a value-based education. And she is excited by the prospect of watching every child achieve his or her potential. She is a UN certified climate change leader and has made presentations at various COPs and other international conferences. She has led this school's twinning program with 87 schools, enabling schools to develop partnerships around the world to embed the SDGs. Hence, we have the title Empathy and Collaboration for a Quantum Leap in Climate Education. And this webinar with panelists from Dubai, Malawi, Indonesia, and Italy hopes to commemorate International Day of Education with this webinar, because we want children to feel that for the planet to become environmental students and agents of change. Schools need to be part of the larger community through the networks of teachers, students, parents, and guardians. And collaborations across the world is the way forward, with exchange programs between students as well as teachers to learn best practices. Asha is actually going to be heading to Indonesia later today to set up a school hub there, and she will tell us more about that. Amongst the panelists, we have Katie Gallin, who is events coordinator and project manager at the Stepan Zavrel Foundation in Sarmede, Italy. Basically, Katie is known, this organization is known for the prestigious international exhibition of illustrations for children called Le Immagini della Fantasia, and an international illustration school in Italy. She graduated in political science at University of Padua in 1999 with a thesis dedicated to the role of Italian environmental associations in environmental protection. And she has attended courses for the management of European funding opportunities. She has more than 20 years of experience as events and cultural project coordinator in children's book illustration, educational and tourism activities, traveling exhibition projects in Italy and abroad, and the development of European projects. She has a great ability to create synergies between different professional realities, and we'll see how she brings this forward. And since 2021, she is the Italian ambassador of the GEMS Twinning program, ideated by Asha. and we look forward to having her on the panel. Along with her, we have Aditya joining us from Indonesia. He's a scientist turned educator with a passion for nature and the great outdoors. As a science teacher, he strives to create opportunities for his students to develop their agency and capacity for impacting change. His teaching style is very hands-on and project-based, as he is a proponent of the learning by doing school of thought. Dialogue around conservation and climate action form a big part of his lesson plans and often result in student-led action. He is currently the DP coordinator at Sekolah Bogor Raya in Indonesia, where he also teaches biology and theory of knowledge. But in his free time, Aditya can be found hiking, diving, or cycling. We also have with us Emma Binding, who is head teacher of Mount View Primary School and Early Years Center. The school aspires to involve and inspire students to become lifelong learners within a safe, secure, and caring environment, teaching them to value cultural diversity and care for our environment. So with such excellent panelists, I'm sure we'll have a wonderful session today. Over to you, Asha, to take it forward.
Thank you so much, Neela, and welcome everybody in the audience and all of you as panelists. I'm excited to be moderating this panel. And like Neela said, we are coming from different continents. We have Europe here, we have Africa, we have the Far East, Indonesia, and here the Middle East. I'm here in Dubai. And we've been able to put this together because we began the GEMS Global Ambassadors Hub Schools for Sustainability. Like Neela mentioned, we are 87 schools in this network, but we realized that we need passionate drivers of change. And in the three people that are on this panel, they're showing great interest and enthusiasm to empower other schools in their region. And I think it is this empathy and this collaboration that has brought together this panel on an absolutely wonderful day, the International Day of Education. I couldn't be happier than bringing together these wonderful panelists. So I will begin with addressing a question to you, Katie. The climate of Italy is experiencing rising temperatures, and I felt that when I was in Italy. The melting glaciers, an increase in the number of floods due to sea level rise, rainfall, and more frequent and prolonged periods of drought. And this is going to stunt the growth of Italy's economy in the coming decades, with agriculture and tourism being the hardest hit. So could you please share how you have become personally motivated to be a pioneer in climate and sustainability education?
Okay, so thank you very much for this invitation, because I'd like to start telling you about our experience. This collaboration has given us many visible benefits for students. I'd like to share the impression of the Italian student involved in this program. When I have heard, Madam Asha, your speech at the COP25, I was very impressed by your determination and your decision to create this network of schools around the world. And for me, I have decided to take my part to create, to create a new opportunity for school in Italy. So I have to persist. I've sent so many mails, and after 1 year of our collaboration, I'm happy to announce that we started with only 250 students in Italy, and right now they are involved 1,000 students in about one institute, Comprehensive Institute of Cappella Maggiore. So thank you to your teachers, Radha Manukar, that she decided to call me and explain your vision. I was really impressed. So I decided to do my simple, steps to the environment and help others. It's natural for me to create being between peoples. So I had to persist because it wasn't absolutely easy, because I have an organizer, so I'm not a teacher. But I really found at the end teachers, Silvia Gasparetto, an Italian teacher, that decided to give me opportunity to present this program, and right now is a reality. Many teachers right now are very enthusiastic, very motivated, and there are a lot of incredible benefit and new opportunity also for the school. So if you want, I can tell you another great opportunity that we decided to do for it's a future plan. When you open the school to the community, the school open the opportunity to create new relation with different institutions, with stakeholders. On the next day of the Earth Day this year, the 20th April, the Earth Day, I'm happy to announce that we will organize an event with the Padua University, with the Professor Tommaso Anfodillo, and we will organize a meeting with parents and students together. So, and also, it was the first time. I think that is a sacred school. It's not, they decided to call, and it's this opportunity for parents and students and the community will take place on that important days. And then the Comprehensive Institute of Cappella Maggiore, we recently became part of a UNESCO network of school here in the province. There is about 30 schools right now that they are informed about this opportunity of the UNCC Learn platform, because in Italy we didn't know actually, and they show interest in do the translation of the content in Italy, in Italian language. So this is my personal experience right now.
That's wonderful, Katie. It's your enthusiasm which is opening up so much opportunity for all of your children in Italy, and you're going far beyond. Now you're working with Padua, and I hope that association really bodes well for many more schools in the region. The whole idea of the GEMS Global Ambassadors Network is to empower other schools all over the world. We all have to work together, and more of us have to work simultaneously if we have to deploy people to combat this climate change. And we need all of our young students. It's a wonderful thing you're doing in opening it up to parents and other stakeholders, because everyone is responsible for the planet, not just the students and the teachers. So this is really wonderful. Thank you so much for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
Aditya, coming to you, climate variability and change increasingly threaten Indonesia's coastal population and infrastructure, as well as the country's tropical forests and ecosystems. Now, it has extensive coastline and millions of people living on low-lying lands just above sea level, making it really one of the most vulnerable countries due to the sea level rise. With so much going on around you, Aditya, schools around the world are struggling to implement sustainability education in their curriculum. I want to know how you became aware of the importance of introducing this concept of sustainability to children in your school.
Okay. So thank you for that, Ms. Asha. I think that question is a very important question. Personally, for me, like my personal journey, I started as a biologist and I worked on elephant conservation. So I'm in India, I studied elephant migration. And so I'm personally very intimately aware of the issues from a scientific perspective. My shift to education was because I started to feel a bit hopeless about how much there is to know and how little people know. because in elephant conservation particularly, one of the issues is humans don't understand the need for it. They don't understand why they should prioritize an elephant over their own needs. And so my move to education was predominantly because of these ideas sort of taking root in my head. In Indonesia, like you said, it's a very complex situation. Indonesia is economically in a state where it needs the global trade. So it needs, for example, palm oil exports. It needs to incorporate textiles manufacturing in Indonesia. And so there is a lot of deforestation that happens because of these economic needs. It has a population which is almost 290 million, and slightly above that. It has a huge population density, especially on Java. So it has its human needs to fulfill, basic human rights for all these people. And part of that is to take part in trade through the world. And that is leading to deforestation, bird trade, animal exploitation, all sorts of things. And so it is, and I found in the curriculum, especially in an international school, my students who are Indonesians are unaware of the issues of Indonesia. They're very aware of issues which are in Europe or in the Americas and so on. But there is very little, literature for them to go through on Indonesian context. So part of my reasoning here was to try and build curricula which take in those ideas, but use local context examples. And so we are trying to make our students more personally connected to the problem instead of thinking of it as some other country's problem.
Yes,
so that's where Jenny has been.
Definitely, that is, I think, very, very pertinent because each country's context is so different. When we're talking about all our countries, we all have issues around climate change, and the actions that we need to undertake, those in some cases may be similar, but are quite particular to the context. So making students and children and teachers and others aware of your own context, and not trying to solve somebody else's problem in some other country, but first attend to your home. First attend to what you can relate to and what you need to do to save your own home before you begin saving the world. So this is one of the learnings that we bring back to our own GEM schools, is that children understand that we all have problems. And while we may be in sometimes a better situation than others, we need to understand that problems in other parts of the world, it will eventually lead to a migrant population, refugees from climate affected countries, and eventually it will become your problem, even though currently you might be very safe in the place that you are. So this is wonderful learning, and I'm so glad there are people like you taking this forward for your children and your teachers in your context. So Emma, I wanted to ask you, Malawi has had several disasters between 1990 and 2006. There were 33 weather-related disasters and a nearly 5-fold increase from the 7 disasters in the 20 years before that. It has been struck by harsh droughts and flooding as well. And this extreme weather is set to continue towards the mid-century. And the challenges Malawi faces are huge. There's already food insecurity and the lack of good quality water, which is a constant problem. So can you please share some best practices that you implemented in your school in this context? How did the school life change? And what was the impact of these practices on your children?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted that you asked me to join. You've all done so much. We're at Mount View on the start of our journey. And I'm really glad that you talked about the context, because Malawi is one of the poorest countries in the world, and we don't have a lot of infrastructure to support climate change, recycling, things like that. It's something that as a school, we feel we have a huge responsibility to educate our children and our families. But as I said, we are on the beginning parts of our journey. Malawi sits just below the equator, but with climate change and global warming, the seasons and the climate certainly have changed. and Malawi has certainly suffered. Most recently, last February, we did have a cyclone that hit, which is a little bit unusual, but we caught the tail end, but it did cause massive devastation. So a lot of the rivers burst their banks, flooded a lot of homes and houses. And our children at school were very, very aware. So rather than shy away from this, we did get some relief experts to come in and speak with the children, and we showed them appropriate clips and videos of what had happened and explained to them that people had lost everything and what that meant when you'd lost everything. So we did do a drive here at Mount View to collect blankets and bedding and food. And we explained to children if they could even bring in just one spoon, what a difference that would make to everyone. So in terms of when we do drives, and we supported Mozambique as well when they had the floods a few years ago, that we have tried to be open and honest with our children of what happens and why it happens. And recently, our prefect team, our year sixes, were very good at noticing littering, because it's a particular pet hate of mine. And they decided to do a little play in assembly to show the rest of the children in the school about the effects of littering. But what astounded me is when we spoke with all the children is how aware they were of the damages it does to the wildlife when we just throw our plastics away. And unfortunately in Malawi, recycling using bins is not really, we're not quite yet there yet, to say the least. So for our children to be taking the rubbish and putting it in the bin, it's definitely a step forward. And for them not to be littering Malawi. We also do a lot of things here with recycling. So rather than putting away all our plastics and making them disposable, that we can use them, we use a lot of bottle tops to make wind chimes and things like that, which have been readily received by the children, and they're coming in with their own ideas. So we're trying not to be as wasteful. But Malawi as a country, as I said, is a little bit behind in some of the other countries, but we do have some NGOs out here, non-government organisations, which are paving the way for recycling. So as Bob the Builder would say, reduce, reuse, recycle, and that's what we're introducing here at our school. But the weather, as I said, has changed considerably. We have beautiful Lake Malawi, but with the cyclone and the ever-increasing rains that we're seeming to be getting as the lake is getting higher and higher and our shoreline is disappearing. But with the heavy rains means that our fish go a lot deeper, so the fishermen are having a very tough time economically as well. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. You know, it's wonderful to hear that children were able to empathize with what happened in Mozambique after having experienced the situation in Malawi. And that's exactly what we want children to be able to do. When you undergo something, it's easier for them to understand the plight of someone else. So we are trying to make children who've not undergone this to put themselves in their shoes of the children in Malawi and think how hard it is for children to, you know, go without drinking water or to experience such extremes of climate. And talking about recycling, it's a first step, you know, actually picking up and putting away litter. You might have ideas that everywhere, everyone has stopped littering. I think I don't agree. I think across the world where I've seen a lot of tourists and other people, you know, who are not aware of this, is continuing to litter and, are responsible for the condition of the planet. So you've done a fantastic job. Young children being aware that litter belongs in the bin and not around is indeed a terrific impact to start with. So well done. And I'm glad to see that there's empathy developing in your children. So back to you, Katie. You've associated with the GEMS Global Ambassadors Program for more than a year now, and you're now representing the GGA hub schools in Italy. So could you just shed some light on how much you've benefited from this collaboration and what your plans are for the future?
Oh, thank you very much. I'd like to start my little experience, but was a big experience with the students, the Italian students, and I'd like to use their words, because when we started this collaboration has given us many benefits. And I'd like to share the impression of the Italian student, the opportunity to present the beauty of our province, to work together on concrete projects, to be able to express our imagination, their skill in English, because we have section in English, working as a team. It has been a very enriching opportunity to grow for them. They became more aware of the effect of climate change. These are the effects, the visible effect of our collaboration, but also there are the effects for teachers. The teachers, they become very enthusiastic to be part of wide community of school around the world. And this gave them the motivation and enthusiasm to create other opportunities, other activities. At the beginning, as I told before, there were involved only 250 students, and right now it's about 1,000 students. Why? I thought because I saw in the eyes of the teachers that they want to create more activity with the students. They want to create, they saw the enthusiasm, the dynamism, so right now, the principal of our Comprehensive Institute of Capella Maggiore decided to, for each classes, and there are 4 schools in this comprehensive school institute, each classes will do an activity that exactly focus on sustainability and climate change to share with others. They nominate 25 young ambassadors of sustainability. So they, at the end of this academic year, they will organize a presentation of all the projects to the community. We have in Italy, it's important to underline this point, because this project opened the doors of the school to the stakeholders. The stakeholders decide to help school in, give money. I have to tell that because it's important, because they support the school. And also in Italy, it's not easy sometimes a public school, so they need support. And then I have shared this experience with a lot of teachers, and they show the interest to create others project, but in particular involving students, because they are the protagonists. It's important for me to tell, if you share, you belong, you feel part. So I'm sure that these students will, in the adulthood, they will remember this experience. So they will become a very important, they will act to respect the environmental. So teacher has an important role, in my opinion, and I have a dream that I hope it can be a reality soon, to create a to participate in a European project to tell about all these experience that there are in the world. For example, maybe we can create a project to sharing data bank curriculum that the Italian teacher needs, for example, just to, they need example of lessons too. So, and also I hope that this project will have the participation of the student, in particular to show their capacity, means social. I have this idea after attending the last meeting. They need to, using, for example, their attitudes to tell the story about the environmental, using maybe video making, storytellers, their capacity. So
Yes.
they will be the protagonist of our future and their future also.
I'm very glad to see there's so much happening, and really it is wonderful to see that your teachers are learning. And talking about lesson plans, we will continue to create a data bank with all of the people who are part of our GEMS network, the global ambassadors, and we'll be very shortly sharing that with everyone in the network so that all the teachers can benefit and every region can continue to populate these lesson plans, because it's hard for teachers to embed climate literacy in their curricula, over and above whatever it is that they're doing. So it's wonderful to hear your children have developed confidence, your teachers are enthusiastic, and they want to take this message forward. So thank you for that, Ketty. Aditya, you're about to be invested as a GGA Hub School in the coming week. What are your hopes and aspirations for empowering other schools in your region to practice sustainable behaviors?
Right. So thank you so much for that. I think we are, as a school, we've had some success with embedding, questions of sustainability and lesson planning and student awareness. We have some projects at school. For example, we have a hydroponic farm, which is completely self-sustained, and we provide produce to our school community and so on. And we have some projects like that running. So we want this now to grow because we are in a position that we can support some of the close by schools. We've started some collaborations already with a refugee school close to our place. So there are some Afghan refugees who live in Indonesia, and they've started a school, and we have partnered with them, and we will be providing more support to them as well. There are some local government funded schools, which again, we have partnered with. And the idea is to empower teachers in such a way that they can then empower their students. We want to get rid of the idea of this learned helplessness, this idea that what can I do as one person? So we want to challenge that idea. We want more students to really, at a personal level, challenge that idea and learn that there are things that they can do, and they can become part of a collective as well, or do things individually. And both those things have some impact. It may not have an impact which is easily visible to them, but it has an impact. It is worth doing. So that's the main message, I think, that if it spreads, that would lead to better collective action.
Absolutely. I think, for children to realize that it is every day, these little actions, the impact that we're talking is sometimes visible only in a long-term period. Everyone is used to doing something and immediately expecting to see a result. Some of these would require a prolonged period and time of commitment to continuing to do what you're doing consistently. And it's great to hear that you're supporting other schools, government schools, and those who really need your help, because some of us are in a privileged situation. We have access to good education, we have good teachers, we have all of the basic needs met, and we are therefore not able to understand the plight of those who are really grappling with climate change in the real world. So it's really good to see that you're supporting, and I think that's something that we could learn and take away from you. Emma, the language of climate change has changed. It used to be global warming, and now there's reference to climate emergency. What's your view on this, and what will you say to those who continue to deny the very existence of climate change?
I think that's an excellent question. And as a team here at Mountview, we did talk about this only last year. And one of our big problems here in Malawi is deforestation, because people need the charcoal to cook their food on at home. It's a must because electricity is not readily available and we don't always have water. And I feel that's quite an important context to share with you at the same time. So we teamed up with an NGO called Trees with a Z, and they came in and they shared some alarming information with us. Malawi has 7 years left of trees, and then we have no more. They will all be gone. So that was quite shocking, and it was a number the children could understand. 7. So we spoke to the children, we wanted them to feel empowered. What did they think that we should do? And they came up with marvelous ideas of what we should do and what they were going to tell their families. But they wanted to raise money so that we could give money to trees so that they could buy more trees and plant them in Zomba, which we thought was just lovely. So we spent the year fundraising and raising awareness of trees and all their good work so that we could start to repopulate some of the trees in Malawi. But I think that really hit it home to the children with the word emergency. So they wouldn't have even finished high school and there'd be no trees left in Malawi. So that I thought was really, really powerful. Of course, there are people that deny that we're in a climate emergency. And I think some of the conversations I've had, I feel we need to maybe take a gentle approach, because going in a kind of aggressive manner doesn't always work so well. But I thought that trees was a very positive, if that's the right term, of positive way to describe and share with all our families here in Blantyre, Malawi, that we have got some serious concerns, and this is very imminent in 7 years. Even to try and turn it around now is going to take a long time. And again, like you said previously, with our ever-changing weather systems that we have, and if we look back historically, they weren't as aggressive or frequent as they are now. So I would, or what we try and do here is share with our families the evidence is actually in front of us. And we are lucky the children are very empathetic. And I think you're absolutely right with what you've all previously said. It's getting it through to the children gently and at a level that they understand, so that they themselves are part of the change as they grow up.
Yes, Emma, you're absolutely right. You know, when you're talking about climate change, you said, it takes me very well into my next question to you, which is, you know, climate education can be made mandatory, but how can climate education be done in a manner that is, you know, inspires environmental stewardship willingly? It's not forced on children, you know, they should understand their part in it, you know, because you said you can't be aggressive. So how can you inspire environmental stewardship?
I can only go on what we've done so far here on the start of our journey so far, is that we've talked about recycling, because obviously we have a lot of a very disposable kind of lifestyle in a lot of ways here, is that we look at things like the bottle tops and we make bin times, and we've used our plastic bottles to make bird feeders, and then we take it on. So the birds need to be fed. If the birds don't get fed, what happened to the birds in the bigger picture? So we try and make those links to the children that they understand, that moves on to the bigger picture. And I think the key thing is, and as we practice here with our children, is to listen to what the children are saying to us and empowering them with the questions, the whats, the whys, the hows, the wheres, and really kind of sticking to that previous proverb, you know, it's better to have all the questions than to have all the answers. And we like our children to question and follow on with what next, what could happen, how could we change that? And that's what we desperately try and do here, is empower our children so they can have their thoughts and share their thoughts with us in a constructive way. You get some children, like with every subject and everything they do, some that really have the passion and they take hold of that, and they've come in and they've got a homemade lemonade to sell because they want to start a collection for something to save the environment, which is wonderful. And I think having it in education as mandatory would be fantastic, because I think it's a very cross-curricular subject, that you can look at the history, that you can look at the geography, that you've got design and technology. I really think it fits across and looks at the, not only at climate change and global warming, but also I think it really fits for all the children, even your ones who maybe aren't so academic, but are good at making things and have that creativity. I think that it's really positive, and I think it can only benefit not just our small community, but like the rest of you've done, as it's grown out and out and out and out. And I think that's just wonderful, really.
Yes, Emma. I think that, inspiring children, making them attracted to and taking ownership of what they're doing is very important. Sometimes educators think that a curricula is what is written and given by a state board or somebody like that. I think curricula must evolve. All the problems around you should become your learning material. You have to bring the world and its real world problems into your lessons. And that's the curriculum we need, because if we don't teach children to solve the real problems in the world, then what are we teaching them? We are teaching them in watertight compartments of physics and chemistry, but if they haven't learned to take that and address the world's problems, we are just teaching children content. We're not able to give them critical thinking to use that content and apply it. So I think climate action and all the SDGs should become the heart of curricula across the world. So thank you for that, and thank you for what you're doing. You're doing a really wonderful work. Aditya, what kind of challenges or resistance are you facing? And what do you think are the reasons for this? And how are you going to go about overcoming them?
Okay. So I think one of the big challenges that I've always faced or always thought about is that everybody agrees that something must be done. And then that's where it stops.
There are no takers.
Right. So I think part of, at least in my understanding, part of the reason for that is that students don't feel personally, like Emma was also saying, there is no buy-in. Students don't feel personally engaged with the problem because it doesn't affect their day-to-day. They live in a bubble which is very urban, it's mall-based, it's, they're living in these artificial environments. And so I think one thing that has had a lot of traction with my students is when I've started to take them out in nature. So I've designed programs, my lesson plans, or my extracurricular activities. So we have a hiking club, we have a nature club. The more time they spend outdoors, the better they get at caring about nature and caring about these issues. They learn that it is important to them. And so that's been one major learning, is the more I take my students out. So for example, my students have stopped using the air conditioning in my classes at least. And the reason for that is that they did a survey of the insects on our campus, and they counted the number of species that they could find. And they were amazed by how many they were able to find. And then they compared that to historical figures and were like, oh, this is far fewer than there used to be. And part of the reason is the temperature change, because some insects are very temperature sensitive. They can't breed further. And since then, they've started to really care about how much they're consuming. It's not that they've stopped entirely, but they've learned to count how much they're consuming. And so there are no ACs in my classroom. We have a system of carbon credit. We count how many days we went without an AC, and then once in a while we'll give ourselves a cheat day. We'll use the AC once in a while. So there's this kind of, that's worked with students. What doesn't work with teachers is the same approach doesn't always work with teachers. Teachers are a bit harder to work with because they have a much larger experience base of, so there is this kind of apathy that is set in, where they've started to feel that nothing can be done and so on. Not always, of course, there are exceptions to this, but wherever it doesn't work, the reason seems to be that they feel that nothing can be done. And so again, I like to invite teachers into a project, live project, where they help in. And once they start to see the enthusiasm of the students, it's no teacher can resist an enthusiastic student, I think. So once they see the student enthusiasm, the teachers then convert. But they have to see it. Sometimes they have to be shown that. So I think that's so it's a challenge and some form of solution, I guess.
Yes, Aditya, it's really true. When we started, when I was thinking of 7 years for Emma, the trees are going to last, and that's alarming me, just the thought that it's 7 years of trees left. We started a program called Plant a Legacy, where we ask students to plant trees. And now across the world, we've planted more than 50,000 trees. Now we're taking this campaign, not just locally, but across the globe, inviting students to plant on their birthdays, on the graduation days, on any celebratory days, so that more trees get planted. Because this is something, there's something about connecting with the earth, of digging the soil and planting a tree that is so satisfying even for adults. So the enthusiasm I see when we take them on drives of planting trees in the desert. So I had the Guardian visit us and ask us, but you're planting trees in the desert, do you think your action is going to save these deserts? I said, no one has tried, so no one will know. So would I stop because no one has done it before? So you need some kind of inspiration. You need people like you who believe, who can change the minds of children. And I completely agree. Children are far easier to convert than adults. Adults have become very cynical, very pessimistic, very saddened with the situation that we ourselves have brought the world to. But we need to deploy a lot of people far more quickly instead of blaming each other. And we need people like you who will step up and take action no matter what. So thank you for that. Katie, your work in Italy and with the schools across the world, you're becoming an increasingly high-profile figure for the sustainability cause. From where are you drawing your inspiration?
My inspiration, as I told before, started when I have heard you. When I heard you really, because at COP25, I saw you, I've listened to you, and I discovered your vision, so your action. So when I received a call from Radha Maukar, that is your teachers, I was surprised. She was living in Dubai, I was living in Italy, and just, friend of us put together. And she was very determined to explain me your vision to create network between school. And I was impressed. Very simple words, because a simple person decide to have this vision. So I'd like to be part of this vision, I decided. So I am a mother, I have 2 children. I am, I know that how is important our attitude, our behavior. So I decided to, go out of my comfort zone. And started to write a lot of email, bother a lot of teachers. And at the end, some prestigious teachers in Italy, that there are prestigious teachers in Italy, because you have a very important role in the life of student children. So that's it. I'd like to, be part of this experience. I have learned a lot of, stuff. And today I absolutely understood that if we inspire our students, they inspired us to make action. This is a very simple, connection. So, so I'm very happy because I'm feel full of strength, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to meet you, Emma, and Adi, because it's like to be connected. The world is connected. So I'm sure that within 1 hour, we need one here, we will have opportunity to tell other stories. And maybe we can share, we can ask to teachers, teacher and student to tell this story. So this is my story.
Thank you for that, Katie. I think we've touched upon several things, but it's very appropriate that on this day, the International Day of Education, and you from different countries, I have a question for all 3 of you. I'll take the answers one at a time. how do you think what is your message for educators, especially those who are trying, how can they start sustainability education in their schools? How do you think they can start? And what is your message to them? Ketty, you go first.
I'd like to use some keywords based on my experience. The first one is training, because training. Because use the platform that is available, free, the UNCC Learn is available. So it's important to start to know more. You know, climate literacy, it's necessary to improve it. Then use imagination, because use imagination, because teacher and student can create a lot of wonderful experience together. They need just to, you know, live and create. After that, I think that is important. The third word, it's collaboration, because here together we are full of, with this collaboration. For example, I know a lot about your story from Malawi, from Indonesia. So, and I discovered a lot of different projects and opportunities. So I can share with Italian teacher right now. So don't be and go out to our comfort zone, because you can have a lovely memory for all your life. To be part, to act, bring me a lot of joy in my life. This is the personal experience.
Right. So I think you touched upon something important. Teachers have to be upskilled, and like you said, there are courses available, whether they are on UNCC platform or in other platforms. Some schools don't have the budgets to pay for courses, but there are free available resources. So whatever suits the school, that's one great way of upskilling teachers, because you have to know about climate literacy before you start teaching it or trying to teach it. You need to know the science of climate. So I think that's really very important. Aditya, what is your advice for educators?
I think, first of all, I echo what Ketty said, that it is important to educate ourselves. UNCC is a good platform. Nat Geo has a lot of free courses, again, for educators to learn about the explorer mindset and so on. So that's one thing. The other is to critically question our own consumption choices and teach our students to do that as well. To learn to just question, why are we consuming at this point? And just by being aware of that much, there are changes in our behavior patterns that we can see and students can see. That's one thing. And then the last, I think, is to understand that this is the priority. You cannot say that I would have liked to do this, but I have the pressures of the curriculum. I have my students' grades to think about and so on. Those grades will not matter. Like Emma was saying, in 7 years' time, there is no point having a great grade if the planet doesn't exist anymore. So that priority, that this is an emergency and that this is the priority is important. And that the curriculum can be taught with these ideas. It is not one or the other. That idea is important. That's why lesson planning and learning from others and how to incorporate these ideas into your lesson plans, that's an important skill to learn. And I think it can be learned quite easily, but teachers need to take that effort. And I think that's where, think big, but act small, take small steps, change learn how you can be of use, and it's a practice. You improve as you go. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. I think the small steps, teachers are overcome when you say climate literacy. It's almost like a big word, a big term. They look for space in the curriculum. They want some content to teach. But if they are made to understand the things that are happening around you, become part of your curriculum, become part of your physics or your English or your artwork. And then the space in the curriculum automatically is just changing the mindset and taking small actions. We will look to all of you and as part of the GGA to populate the database of lesson plans. I think this should be a large free sharing resource available to all educators across the world. And on International Education Day, I can't but emphasize, this is what, as a GEMS leader, I would want for the rest of the world to be able to equip every teacher with the kind of lesson plans with which they can teach the children, raise the awareness regarding climate change and climate action, and make them understand. Another point you touched on about consumption is something I think, we're always talking about recycling and upcycling, but why are we generating waste? Can we afford to generate waste? That is a question that each of us should ask before we put something in the dustbin, or before we throw out an old clothes, or before we, tear a piece of paper and put it in the dustbin. We should be thinking, what kind of waste am I generating? Why am I generating? Do we have the resources on this planet to continue to live in the self-same manner? So if we generate less waste, that's something in our hand. It's our choices. And every individual is capable of exercising the choice every minute of the day. So kudos to you. Wonderful for the work you're doing. I'm sure your students are going to benefit. I'm looking forward to our interaction in Indonesia in a couple of days. Emma, what is your message to educators?
Well, I think everyone's covered everything, but one thing I would like to say is to maybe start with children. What is their existing knowledge? Because they always amaze me when we start talking about something, and most of them have previous knowledge. It could be correct, could be incorrect, but I know when we started talking about the oceans and what's happening in the oceans, how much the children knew. So to take their existing knowledge and use that as a platform to then build upon.
Yes, I think, most of the time we don't give credit to what children know in the world already. We go starting at the very beginning, assuming a blank slate, but today's children are far more aware because of, whether it's social media, whether it is a TV, or whether it is the talk that is happening around in their communities. They know more than we give them credit for. So you treat a kindergartner as a baby and you start teaching him the letters of the alphabet, probably can already read off hoardings in your cities. That's how advanced children have become. So you have a point. Children know more than we give them credit for. So using what they already know and getting them engaged and taking ownership of the problems, not always created by them, but it's something that we will all have to live with. So we have to work together, because it is not about who started the problem or who's continuing to fuel the problem, but the problem is there, and this problem is not going to let us live well on this planet. And if we have to live a life like we are enjoying now, and we hope our children will enjoy, it becomes everyone's responsibility. Education, my chairman and founder, Mr. Sani Varki, says, is the answer to everything. He says, whatever the question, education is the answer. And I think I would endorse that again. I will steal his line and I will tell you all again, whatever the question, and if the question is, what can we do about climate change? It lies in education. When we say awareness, it's about educating people. So I think educators have to be brought to the heart of the climate action. They should be the immediate response to the world's pressing problems. If all educators, and there are millions of us around the world, if everyone feels like you and me, I'm sure climate change will be history. So thank you so much for joining us today. I hand you back to Neela. Thank you for this opportunity, for allowing us to bring our GEMS Global Ambassador schools together, and they're doing yeoman service. And I hope by the end of the year, we'll have at least 10 countries who will be attending COP28 with us here in Dubai.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Just to let you know that Earth Day, along with their partners, organized the first climate education hub at COP27. And we are taking the movement forward. Today, our My Future, My Voice youth, along with the Climate Education Coalition, have written an open letter to the head of the COP28, asking for climate education to be mandated. So this is what we want. We want climate literacy, which is basically climate education taken towards civic engagement and taken towards climate action, to really be the way forward, because we believe that an educated workforce will really create the green economy. And as you can see behind me, the theme for Earth Day is invest in our planet, and we really need all of us around the world to work together, whether as individuals, academic institutions, NGOs, governments, to take the message forward, to join the environmental movement with us. Thank you so much. So a World Environment Day today, leading up to Earth Day, as you mentioned, on April 22nd. Do join us for everything. Log on to our social media channels to know more about other webinars such as this, and get onto the Learning Planet Festival, because there's so many more interesting talks happening even as I speak, because there are more than 500 organizations who have come on board for this. And as you know, Earth Day is the largest, well, we call it the largest movement around the world, which is not a religious mobilization. So do join us on Earth Day as well. Thank you very much for being on this panel, and I really look forward to interacting more with all of you. Thank you once again.
Thank you,
Asha.
everyone. Thank you,
Yeah.
Priyati. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Aditya
Thank
and
you.
Emma. Thank you, Neela. And thank you to our wonderful audience who've been listening to us. And I hope you're inspired to place climate education at the heart of your students' learning experiences. Thank you all for having joined us.
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.